This section, we're going to look at order of operations and get just typing the numbers in correctly to the calculator, which is one of the places where my students will make mistakes. So let's look at this a little closer. First of all, you should know your calculator. Your calculator is always going to go ahead and it's going to first perform any sort of calculations inside parentheses. And this is going to be a very important tool for you to make sure your calculator's not doing things wrong. You cannot have enough parentheses. I mean, more parentheses you have, the more things are going to be kept exactly the way you think the calculator's keeping things together. After that, it will perform any multiplication, always working or division. So it'll see multiplication or division equally, and it's going to see the first thing on the left. So the first thing it would see here in that case would have been the divide, and then later on it would see the multiplication after that. This one right here, right there. Lastly, it's going to perform all additions and subtractions working from left to right. So the last thing it's going to do, it's going to add or subtract if it sees anything. And this is important. The more you know your calculator, the better it is, and it always will follow these order of operations. But if you don't know, use parentheses. That's the way I do it. Okay, so looking at this number, the first thing it would do is it sees the parentheses, it's going to keep these together, and it ends up being 1. After that, it's looking for multiplications or divisions, and this is the next one it's going to see. So it's going to go ahead and take care of this right here. That ends up being 5. Next, it's looking at everything that's left over, and it sees this multiplication symbol, so it will do that. That ends up being negative 40. From there, there's only adding and subtracting, so it'll go to the first one it sees, and it's going to go ahead and take 10 minus 40, ends up being 30. Lastly, it will put these two together, leaving with a cool 24. And there's your answer. That's what it would do. So that's the way the calculator is going to deal with things, no matter how you think it's going to deal with things. If you didn't leave that same thing from before without the parentheses would have give you a different number, a different answer. Okay, another thing that you shouldn't use carets. You shouldn't say 5, and sometimes your calculators have times 10, and there's this caret symbol to the 4. This is going to keep these two numbers in your calculator separate, and there can be more errors because you don't know what your calculator is doing. There's a better way to do this. There's an exponent button in most calculators. Usually it's EE. Usually it looks like this, or it will be like, there might be something in here, and then there'll be like an EE over here at the top where might have to hit a shift or a second to get to there. So let's look at typing this number in. But before that, let's go ahead and look at what some of these exponent buttons look like. So here's one type of calculator where it looks like an EE, but this would be you'd have to hit the second button right here first, and then you could hit that EE, or this button, you'd hit this button, and so the second shifts it up so that you actually are hitting the EE. This is the same thing. If you hit this button first and then you hit this, it will shift up and you will be doing the right thing. This one is physically the button, so all you have to do is hit that button and you're good. This one right here, this one usually will type, I believe this calculator, if you type in the number 3 and then this button, it will still be 2 numbers, but then it's a little simpler than looking for a caret and doing more. So it'll still save you some time. This is the same thing. This is another exponent button. You hit that, but most likely the calculator is going to see whatever you type first, 8. This button times 10 to the n. It's going to see still 2 numbers and not one whole number. This is the exponent button. You hit that button, and it's going to do that. It's going to be that times 10 to. And whatever you hit next. So 5, this button 2 would be 5 times 10 to the second. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to type this number into your calculator, doing what I told you to do. Type in 5, then whatever that button is, I'm writing EE, and this is just representing a button. I'd hit 5, this button, and then I would hit 4. This does everything. This right here is the times 10 to whatever. Whatever you type in next, that's what's going to go ahead and be placed on here, and this will be one whole number. This would be that 5 times 10 to the 4th. Find your button, type it in, and you should get 50,000 if you're doing it correct. Okay, so let's just get a little practice and see what our answers would be. So see if you're doing everything correctly. Once again, if you don't know what you're doing, if you're having trouble just wondering what the calculator is going to see first and what it's going to, do, use parentheses anytime you can. So in the calculator, I would type this 1.3, the EE button, the exponent button, 3 plus 2, the exponent button, 2, and your answer should be 1,500. So try that out, see if you get it. That's what you should get. Next one, if I'm typing this in, 2.6, that exponent button. 4 minus 1.4, that exponent button. 4. And when I'm done with this, I should get 12,000. This one right here, 1.5, that exponent button. 2, once again, the more practice you get, the better. And then this one, you can either do times in the middle, or I'll just go ahead and type it as is. You can, if you just type the times in the middle there, it's just to make sure that your calculator knows that it's going to divide these two. But most of the time, if you have parentheses, just by typing it this way, it will multiply these numbers together. Pen does it sometimes. The 2.2 EE, negative 5. You type that in, and you are getting 0.0033. Anytime you have a denominator, I'm always extra careful, extra cautious. So I like to put extra parentheses around it. 4.4 EE, exponent 5, divided by, and even to be more careful, once again, and we'll keep that as one number, but just to be more careful, you could always do this. Divided by, I'd put extra parentheses, 2.0, exponent, negative 2. So some calculators you can get away without the parentheses, other calculators you can't. And your answer here should be 650. And then lastly, this number right here, I'd type in, once again, parentheses just to make sure. Even extra parentheses is not a bad idea. 1.0 EE 9. 9.1, exponent button, negative 5. Then divide, and I'm just going to write the next thing down here. 1.4, open parentheses, EE, 2, close parentheses, equals, and your answer should be 2.5 times 10 to the 11th. And that's it for this lesson.